All we have to do is kill a couple of spiders, and the collider will bring your family back. As many families as you want.
Kingpin is responsible for all the chaos we see throughout the Spider-Verse movies. At the same time, even though he never intended to, he's also responsible for saving and changing the lives of several spider people across the multiverse. In this video, let's talk about just how influential he is to everything that happens in this franchise, because if it wasn't for Kingpin, none of these events would have happened and things would have stayed exactly the way they were. Before getting into all of that, let's talk a little about why Kingpin created the Super Collider in the first place and what pushed him to start all this mess. Kingpin lost his family in a tragic accident. His wife and son left because they wanted to get away from his criminal lifestyle, and after they died, he carried a huge amount of guilt for what happened.
Justice! Richard! No!
He blamed himself and couldn't move on from the loss. The way he chose to deal with that pain was by trying to bring an alternate version of his wife and son from another universe into his own. That obsession is what led him to the Super Collider and everything that followed. Now that we've talked about his motivation, let's look at how his actions ended up affecting everyone else. Starting with Miles, his entire journey as Spider-Man traces back to Kingpin's experiment. Miles wasn't Spider-Man in his universe. The reason he became Spider-Man is because the Super Collider pulled a radioactive spider from another universe into his world, and that spider ended up biting him. That single moment changed the course of his life forever. If Kingpin had never started tampering with the multiverse, that spider never would have arrived in Miles' universe. Miles would have continued living his normal life, he never would have become Spider-Man, and the Peter Parker of his universe would still be alive. The entire story begins because of the chain reaction caused by Kingpin's actions. When we move on to Peter B and Gwen, the influence becomes even bigger. Let's start with Gwen. Before she was pulled into Miles' universe, her life was in a very dark place.
Hey! Peter?
I never really made another friend after that.
She was carrying the guilt of accidentally losing her best friend, and because of that tragedy she became isolated from everyone around her. She couldn't even be honest with her father, who viewed Spider-Woman as a criminal and spent his time trying to hunt her down. Gwen was dealing with all of that pain completely on her own. She had reached a point where she promised herself she would never make friends again because she was afraid of getting hurt and hurting others. Then the Super Collider pulled her into Miles' universe, and that event ended up changing her life forever. Meeting Miles gave Gwen something she had been missing for a long time.
If you ever decide to do friends again, I could always open up a slot.
I'll keep you posted.
Through their connection, she slowly started opening up again. She found someone who understood her, someone she could relate to, and over time they formed an incredibly deep bond. She fell in love with Miles, and because of that relationship she was able to find hope that had been missing from her life for so long. For the first time in a long time, she had a reason to believe that things could get better. Without Kingpin's actions, Gwen never would have been brought into Miles' universe, she never would have met Miles, never would have built that connection with him, and never would have experienced many of the positive changes that followed. She would have remained in her own universe, isolated, carrying her guilt, struggling with her relationship with her father, and going through each day feeling completely alone. Meeting Miles, meeting the other Spider people, and becoming part of something bigger changed the way she looked at life. Without the Super Collider, Gwen and Miles would never have met, and the most important relationship in the entire Spider-Verse series would never have existed. Now let's talk about Peter B because Kingpin's influence completely changed the direction of his life as well. Before being pulled into Miles' universe, Peter B was in a really bad place. He had lost the joy he once had in being Spider-Man and was struggling with almost every aspect of his life. His marriage with Mary Jane had fallen apart because they wanted different things. MJ wanted to have a child and start a family, but Peter wasn't ready for that responsibility.
She wanted kids and it scared me.
As time went on, the problems between them grew bigger and eventually led to their divorce. After that, Peter basically gave up on himself. He stopped taking care of himself, lost his motivation, and spent most of his time stuck in a cycle of disappointment and regret. He was still Spider-Man, but he wasn't happy, he wasn't moving forward, he wasn't trying to fix the things that had gone wrong in his life. Then Kingpin's Super Collider pulled him into Miles' universe, and that ended up becoming the most important event of his life. Miles became a key figure in Peter's journey. Through mentoring Miles and watching him grow into Spider-Man, Peter slowly rediscovered the passion he had lost. He found joy in being Spider-Man again and regained the motivation that had been missing for years.
Wow, Miles! You're doing it on command!
It's about time, right?
Look who's here!
Figured it out.
I love you! I am so proud of you! Come on, kids!
More importantly, Miles inspired him to stop running from his problems and start fixing them. Because of that experience, Peter eventually returned to Mary Jane and worked on repairing their relationship. Miles also played a huge role in Peter finally overcoming his fears about becoming a father. In the end, Peter and MJ had Mayday, something that probably never would have happened if Peter had remained stuck in the same place emotionally. If the Super Collider incident never happened, Peter would have stayed in his universe dealing with the same depression, the same regrets, and the same unresolved issues. We can't know exactly how his story would have turned out, but what we do know is that his situation wasn't improving before he met Miles. Going to Miles' universe ended up being essential for him. The same can be said for the other Spider people. Spider-Man Noir, Spider-Ham, and Penny Parker all benefited from meeting each other. For the first time, they were surrounded by people who truly understood what it meant to carry the responsibilities and struggles of being Spider-Man.
Guess this is it.
Well, nice to know we're not alone. Right?
Yeah.
They realized they weren't alone, and that connection gave them strength. Seeing other Spider people continue fighting despite their own hardships encouraged all of them to keep going instead of giving up. So while Kingpin's Super Collider caused a lot of problems, it also created life-changing connections for many of these characters. But now let's talk about the chaos it caused. So far I've only focused on the positive effects, but the damage created by the Super Collider was enormous. Simply opening portals across the multiverse was already creating problems, but things became even more complicated after Miles destroyed the Collider at the end of the first movie. When the Collider was destroyed, the consequences spread throughout the multiverse. First off, it created the main villain of the series, the Spot. Not only that, but villains and objects from different universes started appearing in worlds where they didn't belong. The balance of the multiverse was thrown into complete disorder, creating the situation we see later in the franchise. This is also the reason the Spider Society eventually became what it is. Miguel was already monitoring the multiverse, but after seeing the scale of the problems being created, he realized he couldn't handle everything by himself.
Whoa.
What the?
I'm Spider-Man. I need you to come with me.
Who the heck are you?
I just told you that. Listen. I'm from the future.
That's why he created the Spider Society and began bringing together Spider people from different universes to help track and fix these disruptions. While doing this work, Miguel discovered something that would become the central conflict of the series, canon events. Before all of this happened, Miguel had no understanding of how these events affected the multiverse. During his investigations, he found a universe where he had died, leaving behind a daughter. Believing he could finally have the family he always wanted, Miguel took the place of his alternate self and lived in that universe for a time. Everything seemed fine at first, but eventually that universe began collapsing. Watching an entire reality disappear in front of him deeply traumatized Miguel and completely changed the way he viewed the multiverse. From that point on, his mission became much bigger than simply returning displaced villains and objects to their proper universes. He became obsessed with preventing another catastrophe from ever happening again. That experience made him far more rigid, far more controlling, and far more fearful of anything that could threaten the stability of the multiverse.
Being Spider-Man is a sacrifice. That's the job. That's what you signed up for.
Stop him! Now!
He believed Spider people had to accept those losses because interfering with them could lead to even greater destruction. Before discovering canon events and the web of life and destiny, the Spider Society was much smaller. After making those discoveries, he expanded it into the massive organization we see in the film. It all started because Kingpin decided to build the Super Collider. Kingpin's influence didn't stop with Miles, Gwen, Peter B, or even the Spider Society. His actions also completely changed the fate of Earth-42. The spider that bit our Miles was never supposed to be in his universe. That spider originally came from Earth-42 and was supposed to bite that world's Miles. Because Kingpin's Super Collider pulled it away from its home universe, that moment never happened. Earth-42 never got its Spider-Man, and the consequences were massive. Without a Spider-Man there to protect the city, crime became a much bigger problem. The world grew darker, more dangerous, and far less hopeful. Instead of becoming Spider-Man, the Miles of Earth-42 ended up becoming the Prowler. He took a completely different path in life because the event that was supposed to define his destiny never happened. Our Miles is currently racing against time, trying to save his father and prevent another tragedy from happening. Meanwhile, on Earth-42, his father is already dead. At the same time, Aaron Davis is still alive in that universe, while in Miles' universe Aaron was killed, with Kingpin himself being responsible for his death. Just those differences alone show how dramatically the story changed because of the chain of events started by the Super Collider. When you look at the bigger picture, Kingpin's influence is everywhere throughout the Spider-Verse franchise. Without his actions, Miles would never have become Spider-Man, Gwen and Miles would never have met, meaning there would be no love story and no deep bond between them. Peter B would never have met Miles and found the motivation to turn his life around. Spider-Man Noir, Spider-Ham, and Penny Parker wouldn't have shared the experiences that helped them realize they weren't alone. The Spider Society would never have formed. Miguel would never have gone down the path that eventually led him to become the person we see in Across the Spider-Verse. The entire conflict surrounding canon events would never have become part of the story. Everything would have stayed the same. There would be no multiversal crisis, no Spider Society, no meeting between all these different Spider people, no major character growth that came from those connections. Many of the most important relationships in the series simply wouldn't exist. The Super Collider brought both positive and negative consequences, and together those consequences became the foundation of the entire Spider-Verse story. Kingpin is the most influential character in the franchise. Despite no longer being the story's main focus, his actions set everything in motion, and the effects are still being felt across the multiverse. And what's especially interesting is that Kingpin has already been confirmed to return in Beyond the Spider-Verse. We don't know which version of him we're going to see. The Kingpin from our Miles universe was arrested, so there's always the possibility that the story could use an alternate version instead. Personally, I think the Earth-42 version is a strong possibility.